All right, we're live. Facebook. Corey Wolofsky. Hi. Physiotherapist. Stephanie. Matt, we're ready to go. Second half, Dennis Bowden.
Anyways, now we have Corey. It's great. We love Corey. Corey is an amazing physiotherapist here in Montreal. Go see him. Physio en route. Oh, we should have had the we have to do those signs.
Here we go.
And Stephanie Erickson, tackling the topics that life throws in your way. Brought to you by Physio.
Good afternoon as we wind down on this Canada Day long weekend. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed, a show about the ins and outs of family life. It could be about your elderly parents. It could be about yourselves, your kids. We want you to know you're not alone in this, and we're going to tackle these topics and navigate you through it all. My name is Matt Del Vecchio. I specialize in retirement home searches and senior transition support, and I'm here with Stephanie Erickson, my co-host, social worker and family caregiving expert. Hello, Stephanie.
Hi, Matt. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you. I saw a couple of posts on Facebook this week, Stephanie. You had an exciting week in Toronto, didn't you?
Well, it was an exciting 12 hours filled with some delays on flights. It was so weird, Matt. You know that we were supposed to land at, I think it's called Billy Bishop, right there on the island.
On the island, yep.
And they rerouted us to Pearson. It was so weird. I've never heard. Anyways, it was a jam-packed 12 hours. Yes, it was very, very busy.
So everyone at the Pearson's looking to catch a ferry into town, I guess. Billy Bishop, you have to take a ferry.
Yeah, but I was heading downtown. Anyways, I took a cab. But yeah, it was very busy. I was very happy. I was asked to host a gentleman that I've known for several years. He's trying to put together a TV show about caregiving, and he asked me to host. So it was really exciting for me to do that. It was new, a different experience, being on set, makeup, the whole deal. It was great.
Way to go. No, congratulations.
Thank you.
That must have been a heck of an experience.
It was great. Thanks. But let's jump into the topic, because we've got a great guest here. Very excited to have him in, and one of the reasons is because what he's going to talk about affects more women than men, so I'm interested in hearing about it. In preparing for this show, I was reading up on arthritis, and learned that one out of 6 Canadians live with arthritis, and 2/3 of those are women. It's not surprising to me that a lot of people have arthritis. I didn't realize that it affected more women than men. So I'm happy to have in studio today Corey Wolofsky. He's a physiotherapist. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Corey.
And he's with Physio en route. And if you have any questions about arthritis and mobility, make sure you give us a call, 514-790-0800, or you can text us at 514-800. So, Corey, let's start with the basics. I also did not realize that there's actually 2 types of arthritis. So can you go over that for us just so we have a basic understanding?
Absolutely. Well, arthritis, if you break down the word, arthro is Greek for joint, and itis is Latin for inflammation. So arthritis, it means joint inflammation. Okay. And arthritis refers to more than 100 related conditions affecting people's joints. Now, the 2 main types are inflammatory arthritis and osteoarthritis. Now, osteoarthritis, that's the most prevalent form. About 10% of all Canadians are affected by that. And that's a degenerative joint disease which occurs when the cartilage, which is the material covering and protecting the ends of the bones, begins to wear away. It's kind of like the brake pads in the car wearing down over time. It's a wear and tear
and there's actually noise involved for people too when that happens.
Exactly. That's when it's time to go see your mechanic or your physiotherapist.
Exactly.
Physiotherapists, we're mechanics for the body.
Exactly.
That's it. And then the other type is inflammatory arthritis, and that's a group of autoimmune disorders that it's where an individual's own antibodies attack the same lining of the joints. Sometimes can attack other organs, causing inflammation, swelling, and pain. And the most common form of that is rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. So I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there are saying, yeah, I have that.
A lot of people, I think, can relate to it. And Stephanie, you talked about some stats. It gets even worse for seniors. 1/3 of males, seniors, and 1 out of every 2 women over 65 will have some form of arthritis. Nice. So this affects a lot of people. And Corey, we're really happy to have you. As I go around the rounds in senior residences, and you're all over the place, Corey, so hats off to you. You're a hardworking man. And
since we've met each other, we've bumped into each other all over the city.
Yeah.
People who may not have arthritis are probably concerned, what causes arthritis?
Well, so, I mean, we don't really know what the cause is for the inflammatory arthritis conditions. That's kind of, maybe genetics has something to do with it or whatnot. And then the osteoarthritis, well, that is more kind of the daily wear and tear on the joints, if you have previous joint injuries. So high-impact sports and that kind of stuff that leads to injuries can maybe lead to arthritis later on in life. But then things like, managing your weight properly. That's a good way to kind of avoid the onset of arthritis, because the more pressure you have through the joints, the more grinding there's going to be, the more rubbing, deterioration of the cartilage that could happen. So managing a healthy lifestyle and healthy weight is a very good way to avoid developing arthritis later on in life.
You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. This is Stephanie Erickson here with Matt Del Vecchio. In studio, we have with us Corey Wolofsky, physiotherapist with Physio en route, and he's talking to us about arthritis and mobility. So you just kind of defined for us the causes. We don't really know for sure. I see or hear a lot of people, and myself included, sometimes when I'm having like a chronic pain, I think, oh, maybe I have arthritis. I mean, when you're looking at whether or not you have it, is it something that you need to see a particular physician about, or can a physio diagnose this? How do you go about learning what it is that you have?
So again, if you look back at the definition, arthritis is joint inflammation, and that could be from a number of causes. And often what happens is people will go for an x-ray, and it shows on the x-ray, oh, there's arthritis there. But arthritis can be on so many levels. It could be mild, moderate, or severe. And the problem is, there was a study that was done where people who were x-rayed, up to 85% of adults with no knee pain have x-rays that show knee arthritis. But what that means is there's little correlation between the degree of arthritis seen in an x-ray and the actual pain. Degeneration and arthritis can be a part of the normal aging process. When someone comes to me and says, oh, I have an x-ray, it showed me arthritis, I go, well, you have radiological evidence that you're getting older. That doesn't necessarily mean that's why you're having pain. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, it's a lack of mobility. It's a lack of strength. Because what happens is people hear they have arthritis or they have pain, and so they avoid movements. They stop moving. And then that creates more stiffness, which creates more pain. And you get into this kind of vicious cycle where it might not be that's the source of your pain, the quote-unquote arthritis that they see on the x-ray. It could just be that you're not moving enough. It could be that your muscles aren't strong enough. So arthritis itself doesn't necessarily lead to pain unless it's one of those really severe cases. Then, yeah, of course, if you really have bone-on-bone grinding and it's really interfering with your day-to-day activities, well, then we talk about maybe a joint replacement or something.
Well, you talk about these x-rays, and just in my particular case, I had separated my shoulder years ago in hockey days, and however, it affects your day-to-day living, and we want to talk about how that affects all people, but it was diagnosed as something called pseudogout, which is a form of arthritis, but basically a calcium deposit in the shoulder. But it was, my way of life was being affected. Yeah. You just couldn't go and do your regular things, and it was a real bother. And it ended up being physiotherapy, and we're going to talk about that, Corey. But I think the impacts on functioning, no matter what age level, is a huge issue for mobility. It even leads to, there's pain and decreased socialization.
Yeah,
Stephanie.
Absolutely. Well, you don't want to go outside, or you don't want to walk around if you're in pain, and so they end up staying in the house.
Yeah, exactly. So in your world, I think before we get to the physiotherapy, I think people automatically assume, I'm just going to take a Tylenol or a Motrin. I guess medicine is one part of the process of healing. There's surgeries that you had talked about, and you're focusing in on the physiotherapy part of it, Corey, aren't you?
That's right. My goal is to find out what mobility issues do you have. Are there limitations in the joints? Are there limitations in your strength and just your overall, mobility and movement? How are you walking and this and that? And that's it. Like a lot of people, they have pain and they say, I'm going to avoid moving. I'm going to avoid going out. And the effect of that, they're 2 to 3 times more likely to visit a healthcare specialist. They're 3 times more likely to have some mood or anxiety disorders. Depression is very common in this kind of population because they can't live their life the way they wanted to before. And it's primarily because of pain and stiffness. And so that's where we come in, is we try and reduce the stiffness and reduce the pain with non-medical techniques. So I guess we're going to talk about that now or after the break.
Yeah, no, I think we'll talk about it in a bit, but you're bringing up a very good point. But I think this cycle is part of what happens for people, because I know, like in my own family, my mom will say to me, well, I can't really exercise because I'm in so much pain. And so then we say, well, should she go in the pool? Should she do this? Should she do that? She has a lot of knee pain, which, funny enough, that's actually a text that we just got in. Corey, so we're going to get to that in just a minute, but I would like us to talk a bit about some of the recommendations that you have. Now, I know people are not in front of you, so it might be hard for you to physically describe what it is and some advice that you can give to people, but I would like to get to it. So I'm going to throw out this text, and we're going to talk about it in just a minute, and we're going to talk about arthritis to the knees and what a person can do to alleviate stiffness and pain, but first we're going to head over to traffic.